You not gonna lie, I'm at the tall figures. I don't even wanna be involved with you the way I am because I want it all quicker. And I ain't stopping till the family all richer.
Ooh, look, these shows have been brutal. I mean, just because Raw is taped doesn't mean it has to be boring. It doesn't mean it has to be bad. My God, these shows have been brutal. Lord have mercy. Okay. We don't really got much in the way of news and notes to even discuss here. So again, we're just going to give a quick overview of Monday Night Raw. It's been pretty terrible. But I may expand on some things just to make this show worth doing. Okay. So Drew McIntyre reiterated everything he said on Busted Open minus the curse words. And said one person checked in on him while he was out. And said that the roster fakes like they're a real family, but they don't really care about each other. Then he gets into an argument with Sami Zayn that leads to them having another match. Now, this Sami Zayn promo was actually very good because Sami Zayn was talking about how Drew McIntyre's complaints are the same complaints everyone has. Everybody has to make sacrifices. You know, everybody misses events. And that this is the life that they chose to be WWE superstars, and they're lucky to be WWE superstars. And some people may feel a certain way about the whole you're lucky to be here kind of thing, considering we just heard Ricky Starks complain about that, you know, don't tell me I'm lucky for what I worked for. So that'd have been a great time if somebody had thought to steal the Ricky Starks quote. But I think the promo segment was pretty good. Now, coming out of this thing, Drew McIntyre has said one person spoke to him. And I'm interested in who that one person is that's going to end up siding with Drew McIntyre. Who is going to be the one person that spoke to Drew? The one person who checked up on him the whole time he was out? Who's going to be his ally in this whole scenario? Who is going to be that one person? This is just like the Paul Heyman CM Punk favor. This is just something that they dropped in the middle of the story. It's a nice little tease. Now, people are not really paying attention to it, but it will become important later on, considering Drew McIntyre has, waged war against the Bloodline and various people who decided to help CM Punk. Now, this does lead to a rematch of Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre, which we just watched at Saturday night's main event. Don't need to go over it. McIntyre won. It led to a Bloodline beatdown of Sami and Jay 2 days before Christmas. Like Solo and Jay won't see each other for Christmas, for God's sake. In any event, I'm not going to go into that too much. I do want to speculate, however, on who the one person could be that looked after Drew McIntyre. And I'm thinking the one person could quite possibly be Paul Heyman. See, Drew has talked about the backstage crew, the boys in the back, not being as close as they pretend to be. So it will have to be somebody who's probably not in the back. And I think Heyman is the kind of person where if he was going to turn on somebody, this would be a good way of doing it, of leaving these sort of breadcrumbs laying around saying, I checked up on him. He's a great talent. He's a tremendous talent. I always saw the greatness in Drew McIntyre. And making Drew McIntyre a Paul Heyman guy. That could be fun. Especially if they choose to reignite the Punk McIntyre feud down the line. Or to reignite the Roman Reigns McIntyre feud. Because essentially that's all they're doing, is these same guys are working with each other over and over and over again. They're just playing do-si-do. It's Punk and Seth, then it's Drew and Punk, then it's Drew and Roman, then it's Punk and Roman. And they're not exactly feuding with each other, but they're having segments all the time in order to pop, TikTok or whatever. But they're making sure that everybody is on the same level, that these two guys keep playing in the same sandbox. Now, the one issue I would have with that, the one thing that would kind of make that unrealistic, is the fact that Drew McIntyre says that the real villains of the WWE are Roman Reigns and CM Punk. And if you help either one of them, he's coming after you. That would eliminate Paul Heyman, right? So it would say, because Heyman is in the camp of both of these guys. So it wouldn't make sense for it to be Paul. So who else could it be? Paul Heyman was just like my number one option. Who else could it possibly be? And thinking about it, I have no idea who else it could possibly be. Because it's an opportunity for Triple H to bring somebody up. Somebody that maybe hasn't been around for a while, or maybe somebody who is, underappreciated, and bring them into the fold. But I can almost guarantee you this will be an important storyline element later on. The one talent that reached out to Drew McIntyre is going to end up being like a heel turn for somebody, because Drew is one of the biggest heels in the company. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out and who that one person is going to end up being. I don't think it'll be Seth Rollins, who might be the second, because he did approach Seth and say to Seth, you and me, we both got the right idea. They have the same enemies. But Seth is friends with Jay and Sammy, who of course helped Punk and Roman, so that's not going to be it as well. So could it possibly be Karrion Kross? Could it? I think that might be an interesting one. Karrion Kross is not involved with any of this stuff at all, but at the same time is kind of involved with everything. There has been a lot of fan theories about the Karrion Kross character ever since he debuted. Pretty much everybody that he has interacted with to some degree has undergone dramatic changes. And this has been, some people think that this stuff is just, reaching. You're reaching. Some people think this is by design. If you are one of these by design people, then Karrion Kross, being the guy who is the man that was standing by Drew McIntyre the whole time, would elevate Karrion Kross. Considering he's not a friend of the bloodline, he's also not a friend of CM Punk, it could work out just fine. Now, Kross would be on the list, as far as I'm concerned, only because he has, for quite a while now, had his fingers in everything. And I think that's one of the ways that you kind of can be elevated, is if you are the kind of person that has your fingers in everything. It's not going to be like some random mid-carder, It's not going to be like Braun Breaker or anything like that. It has to be somebody of substance. That's why they keep mentioning it. It has to be somebody that matters. That's why they keep bringing it up. But, could it be somebody like Randy Orton? Maybe. Could it be Kevin Owens? That would be a good one. Kevin Owens is a good option. Kevin Owens doesn't like CM Punk. Kevin Owens hates the bloodline. That could be perfectly acceptable right there. It wouldn't be Cody. So I think Kevin Owens is a pretty good choice, right? Just through the process of elimination, you can get to somebody like Kevin Owens as a person that would be reaching out to Drew McIntyre, and a partnership between the two of them could lead to, wreaking havoc upon the bloodline and CM Punk at some point in the future. And they all are doing the same gimmick. McIntyre, Rollins, and Punk and Owens are essentially doing the same gimmick. You help the bloodline, you're involved with CM Punk, I hate you. So I'm very interested in what they're doing with Drew McIntyre's one person to have his back. All right, to continue, Sonya Deville wants Kairi Sane's spot in the triple threat match. Adam Pearce refuses to give it to them. Instead, he's already given it to Io Sky, and he said he refused to give it to them. He refused to reward them for attacking Kairi from behind, but he rewarded Io for losing. Of course, Io won the triple threat match. There's no point in talking about that. Finn Balor and Liv Morgan did the old little brother, big brother. Can you tell so-and-so, such and such said, they're not talking to each other anymore. Whatever. Dominic Mysterio plans to fight Damian Priest, because it seems like he's fighting Damian Priest every single week. The match ends in disqualification. Nobody cares. Judgment Day jumped Damian Priest. The War Raiders saved him. Then Damian Priest makes a pact with the War Raiders. The fat guy from the War Raiders, I think his name is Ivar. War Raider Triple XL rather than War Raider XL. So the one with the beard, the longer beard. He said he has permanent nerve damage. And I guess you can't make it any worse. So that's why you would come back. But I would think having serious nerve damage would probably put a damper on my career. I don't think I would want it to get worse. And that sounds dangerous for a wrestler who needs to use especially their arms and neck and everything. Sounds kind of dangerous to have permanent nerve damage after this most recent neck injury he's had. That doesn't sound good. I think you should rethink things. And I don't hate the War Raiders at all, but I'm not a huge fan of this guy putting his life on the line either. You know, I'm just saying, think about things. Jey Uso, no point in getting into that. Chad Gable, Akira Tozawa, this was brutal. We got they're trying to reheat the Chad Gable Otis feud. They had Gable smack Otis in the match, and then they had Otis throw Gable after the match because he wouldn't let go of the ankle lock on Tozawa after he won. And they teased Otis and Gable finally going at it. And then once again, they stopped because the Creed brothers are there. I don't see how you can get excited about this. They went away from this story for like 4 or 5 months and then tried to come back to it. No, this thing is dead. It's over. Nobody cares. This is trash. Chad Gable should be moving on, doing something else. Seth Rollins had to sit down with Jackie Redmond. He tried to explain once again why he dislikes CM Punk. And he says that CM Punk is a hypocrite. This place didn't need him. Punk needed this place. And then said that his match with Punk is going to be the biggest fight in the history of the industry, or the biggest fight in the industry. He was angry at Survivor Series, seeing Punk with Roman, wanted to throw his remote through the TV, and then say he needed to cut this cancer out of his brain. I don't like how ill-defined Seth Rollins' problem with CM Punk is. I also don't like him coming across like he's the FTR bald of WWE. I love this place. This place is amazing. This place helped me find my wife and kid. I don't like that. This is not what WWE is. WWE is not the place where you put the company over. It should be about the characters, you know? Who cares if CM Punk hated WWE? Who gives a shit? You know, he's not the only one. Guys like Roddy Piper have done what CM Punk did. Guys like Bruno have done it. Guys like Hogan have done it. Guys like Ultimate Warrior have done it. You know, Jesse Ventura has done it. People have left, dogged the company, dogged Vince, and then turned around and came right back. It is what it is. I don't think Seth Rollins needs to defend the honor of the WWE from CM Punk. It just seems goofy to me. I like the idea of it being tied to a personal history from Ring of Honor and in the past. I like the idea of Punk saying, well, you were a fan, or, you know, you asked me to train you and I didn't want to. That seems more realistic to me, that Rollins will have a chip on his shoulder and being constantly compared to CM Punk. And, you know, in some ways walking in his footsteps. Essentially, they did a lot of the same gimmicks and, you know, stuff like that. He was being used to fill the CM Punk shoes. And that was true. It was a fact. Rollins isn't as good a talker as Punk. He's a better wrestler than Punk. But, you know, it's fair. It feels right. This feels like a Road Warriors demolition kind of situation where as soon as Punk left, WWE decided, we're just going to put another former Ring of Honor champion in his spot. You know, but we're going to make him our guy. So what Punk wouldn't do, Rollins would do. And that's kind of, and I would like for them to play that role up. You know, how Rollins was used to fill CM Punk's shoes and he couldn't quite do it. And that's Punk's issue, is that, you know, you walk around with a chip on your shoulder because you tried to be like me. They tried to make you like me, but you're not good enough, yada, 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 which is what, you know, kind of Punk is trying to get over here. I like that more than He tried to destroy this place. He hates this place. Because the company wasn't going to go out of business because CM Punk got pissy on a podcast. So, and then, why did you take that personally? I don't see why you want to take that personally. Who gives a shit? Okay. Mike The Miz and Dexter Lumis fought to a no disqualification because Lumis was jumped by Final Testament. He was then saved by the Wyatts. Nobody gives a fuck about that at all. Nobody cares. I was listening to the Don Tony Kevin Castle Christmas thing, and they were discussing, well, I think Don Tony maybe discussed how the Wyatts might be the year's biggest disappointment due to how long it took for the characters to develop. They dragged the thing out forever, and then they finally debuted, and then they're kind of mid-card and not involved with too much. And now it seems like their targets aren't main event guys or people that really matter, but mostly middling kinds of guys. And their special attraction, which is why, putting them on the Christmas special seems to be making the most sense. And I kind of agree. I think of Triple H unique creative, meaning this is not a Vince McMahon idea to put Bray Wyatt, to put Bo Dallas with all these other people. I don't think Vince would have gone for this because I don't think anybody would have wanted a tribute act, which is what most people see it as. They see it as a tribute act, and it's nice to keep his memory around, but it's not really working. The people like the lights going out and coming back on, but I don't think it's really elevated anybody involved. And it's been around long enough to start critiquing it. This is only their second feud, but they've been around so long. They don't even have promos anymore. They don't talk anymore. The individual characters aren't really even individualized. Like, we don't know why Dexter Lumis is the rabbit. We don't know why Nikki is the witch. We don't know why the Redbeard is back. We don't know any of these things. These characters have been around for months now, and it's stopped moving. It's a constipated story. Now they're just mid. They just pop up every once in a while to feud with other random mid-carders. They win. Now they're starting to lose. And everybody's just sitting around like, I guess the point is to sell merchandise, but are they selling merchandise? I don't know, So I think if you talk about huge flops for the year of 2024, I think the Wyatt 6 has to be on the list. They gotta be one of the biggest flops of the year. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't think this thing was going to work out too well anyway without Bray. But what can you say? The best segment on the show was the New Day. New Day interrupted Wade and Joe Tessitore as they were discussing the New Day situation with Big E. So they didn't want any opinions. They only wanted facts, the truth. Then they talked about how they could have beat up Big E and they didn't. And then Xavier Woods said that Wade and Big E have something in common. They both too cowardly to get in the ring, and Wade said he was retired, which I think is the first time I've actually heard him say that. They get in the ring where Kofi says they could have stretched Big E out, but they didn't, and said it was supposed to be a homecoming for himself and his mom, who came all the way from Ghana, and the fans are ruining her experience because she is the one who taught him how to be a man, how to be the man that he is. And he climbs outside of the ring to get a hug from his mom, but his mom, who looks extremely African, because we know she is, she gives off Florida from Good Times vibes. And just like Florida from Good Times, she will not suffer her sons being sinners and disreputable people, as she refused to give Kofi a hug. No Christmas hug for Kofi. And she walks out. This was great. I gotta give him this one. This one was extremely good. That was very good. Following this, Rey Mysterio apologized to them for kicking them out of the locker room and said he wanted to help them as the locker room leader. That's his job. And then says that if they want to fix anything, they need to apologize. New Day refuses, claims they didn't do anything wrong. Then Rey says, you guys need to start listening because you're going to hear a lot of New Day sucks. And then told them they were on their own. So they're starting a feud between Rey Mysterio and the New Day. Okay. I guess Rey has to do something with his magic knees. And if you're not going to push him as the main event guy, this is fine. I'm okay with this. Now, of course, this was, I think, recorded before Saturday night's main event, so that's why Gunther wasn't on the show. But Damian Priest was on the show? Why? Whatever. So, that's Monday Night Raw. And this show is brutal. I mean, it really is. It's the shits. But, I'm thinking it's going to be better on Netflix. And saying that, I'm not necessarily married to that idea, considering there's still going to be ads on Netflix. So they announced today there's going to be commercials on, but you knew that already, right? There's going to be commercials on the Netflix Monday Night Raw. That was the point of bringing Raw to Netflix, so you can steal a bunch of commercials. And it's not really going to change that much. It's still going to be chocked full of ads, which is what Monday Night Raw is anyway. It's 90% ads. And that's sickening. It's bad. It really drains the life out of the product. So not only is it 3 hours, but it's going to be 3 hours chock full of ads. So it is what it is. I ain't tripping on it though. So now I got so much time to riff on what's going on. So we're almost a full year into Triple H Creative, and I listened to Jim Cornette absolutely gush about Saturday night's main event. And I think him and Brian Last started joking about, is there anybody who, has benefited from the last few years' events? Everybody's better under Triple H now, and they started making jokes about Lacey Evans. And, well, I mean, that's one person. But they kind of missed out on Bianca Belair, for instance. She has been sidelined all year, for 2 years, actually. She's been sidelined for 2 years. But I saw somebody say something earlier about how Triple H, he's made all these guys stars. And that's how, Drew McIntyre can go on a long break because there are so many other stars. And when you say, like, okay, who are these stars? Like really? Like, who are they? You mean the same people that were stars under Vince? The same people who main evented pay-per-views under Vince? I think Jey Uso being a singles act was a revelation this year. I'm very surprised he got so over. But Sami Zayn, yeah, he's in pretty much the same position that he was in before. Gunther is, fairly new. He was fairly new when Vince was there. So I guess you can give Triple H 3/4 of the credit. But Gunther probably isn't the guy that everybody thinks he is. Just because his cage match rating is super high or whatever, that doesn't mean that he's connecting with a lot of people. I think that if you replace Gunther with somebody else at the top of the card, the show's ratings might actually be much better. And I'm not saying that to shit on Gunther. I'm just stating facts. He is somewhat of a good promo. He's a great wrestler. But are people really connecting with Gunther? Does it feel like Gunther naturally got to this point? Or is it feeling like, okay, this is Triple H's guy, and he's going with it, whether he's over or not? And when you look at people who really had heat, somebody like Dominic Mysterio, for instance, he got nerfed. Now, there was not so much you could do with Dominic, but it is what it is. And you can look on SmackDown, same thing with Nia Jax. And also with Bayley, where other people like Tiffany Stratton actually got over, they get bigger reactions, but they get nerfed. Meaning they do a bunch of jobs to, Bayley, or they do a bunch of, sidekick shit with Nia Jax. And, the same thing that happened to Bianca is happening with Tiffany, where they get bigger reactions than Io and Nia and Bayley, but they still get pushed to the side. and not rewarding people for being over, but instead using those opportunities to push the people that you like. And one of those, another folk that I thought was interesting was Liv Morgan, because Liv Morgan was a case of she was super over under Vince, and she got nerfed for a while, and it seemed like they weren't going to do anything with Liv. And it seemed like Triple H didn't really like Liv Morgan and wasn't really going to do anything with her. And then the whole opportunity came for her to work with Rhea Ripley. And that's really what got it working. So Liv Morgan has had a banner year. And as somebody who thought that it was never actually going to happen, that Triple H was going to treat her like he treats Carmella and Alexa Bliss, where, they're sitting at home like, is the phone ever going to ring? No, it's not. You're never coming back. I'm under the idea that Carmella and Alexa Bliss will never return, okay? So if you're a fan of them, you can forget it. They're not coming back. I thought Liv Morgan was going to be put in that camp with Mandy Rose and, all of them, right? But she fell into this Rhea Ripley thing. And Dominic Mysterio happens. Dominic Mysterio is the reason why Liv Morgan got this push. Well, he's one of two reasons she got this push. The other being Rhea Ripley. When you look at Liv Morgan's push, considering Vince started really the build of Liv Morgan, the reason why Liv is in this position is because she's been feuding with Rhea all year long. Since her return, she has feuded with one person, that being Rhea Ripley. She's had matches with like EO and Zelina Vega and some other people, but her entire feud has been with Rhea Ripley. It always goes back to her wrestling Rhea Ripley. What is she going to do once she loses the belt? She's going to flutter out of the card, and that's going to be pretty much it, because the whole thing was about Rhea Ripley. It wasn't about building up Liv Morgan. So I'm interested in where that goes, but at some point, I'm going to give Triple H credit for at least pulling the trigger and making Liv Morgan the champion, because I didn't think he was ever going to do it. I thought he was just basically going to keep the title on EO forever. But even when it comes to somebody like EO, he relies on her a hell of a lot. Her losing the championship match at a Saturday Night's Main Event and then immediately getting put in the Intercontinental Championship tournament, which doesn't make sense considering the whole point of taping Raw was so that people wouldn't know what the outcome of Saturday Night's Main Event was. So when people saw the spoilers that EO was going to be in the Intercontinental Championship tournament, everybody should have known she's not going to win the belt, right? She's not going to win the world title. Whatever. It doesn't matter anyway. So there's that. Now, you can say Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green maybe benefited quite a bit from Triple H. Well, she's benefited quite a lot because she got her job back. But Chelsea Green was a jabroni until 2 weeks ago. She was losing to everybody in 3 minutes until literally they decided to create a mid-card title. Now she's winning. She won 2 matches, and now she's a champion. Okay, but Chelsea Green's a good promo. She's a great personality. All of this stuff works out just fine. But if you look at somebody like Braun Breaker, you could say, well, he benefited tremendously from Triple H. It's like, well, he wouldn't even be on the roster if it wasn't for Vince blowing up NXT, for starters. Secondly, when you look at how Braun Breaker has been treated, he's lost to Jey Uso and he lost to Sami Zayn. Both matches he lost clean. And he's not a regularly defending champion. He hasn't been involved in any storylines, really. He had a small story with Sami that lasted a couple of weeks. He had a small story with Jey Uso, which lasted a couple of weeks. That was it. Nothing to really test his mic skills. Nothing that's really going to elevate him to the next level. Just nothing. He just has the belt. He's just got the belt. And that's it. So I guess that's fine. If all you care about is whether he carries the belt, then that's great. I mean, you look at Bayley. She had the worst title reign she's ever had under Triple H, who was the one who supposedly believes the most in her. And her title reign was god fucking awful. It was the shits. This Nia Jax title reign, Vince fired Nia Jax. Triple H brought her back just to job her out to Rhea Ripley, and then gave her the title shortly thereafter. And she's been doing nothing but losing since she has the belt. How many tag team matches has she lost? She's even lost singles matches as the champion already. Like, the booking of Nia Jax has been garbage. But she shouldn't be in this position anyway. So, I mean, you can even look at certain people, you know, like Mi Chin. Okay, well, she's mid-card, super mid-card. So you have to ask the question, like, who really is benefiting? I don't know. Where's all these stars being made? Somebody like Damian Priest? Well, I guess Damian Priest is a good one. But is he really over? Does people really care about Damian Priest? He seems very Gunther-ish to me, where people respond to him, but it's not passionate. It's not like a passionate, we love this guy kind of response. And it is what it is on that front. Because it's hard to say what's going on with Damian Priest. But it seemed like they push him like he's more over than he really is. And that he has more cachet with the audience than he really does. And I like Damian Priest. But there's just not enough there. But other than that, you see Triple H trying to make the War Raiders happen. They still don't get a reaction. He keeps trying to make DIY happen. They don't get a reaction. Zoe Stark, she don't get a reaction. You know, and when I mean by he's trying to make them happen, I mean he's dedicating a lot of time to them and then dropping the ball. Now, when he does have a somewhat of a success story, something like Chad Gable, for instance, who I believe was a legitimate, Vince fucked him over, didn't really see anything in him. Triple H found the guy, revamped him, polished him up, and then nerfed him. got him to the spot where everybody wanted him to be the Intercontinental Champion, and then decided, you know what, going in a different direction, and then never went back to it. Just nerfed him, dead. It's over. Again, at this point last year, Chad Gable was one of the most over baby faces in the company due to what Triple H was doing with him. But because Triple H he just couldn't fathom pushing somebody who wasn't already pushed, he nerfed Chad Gable, killed him dead, right around WrestleMania last year. So now Chad Gable has been way off the monkey cart, and he's really in a bad space. He's in some ways not quite as bad as he was under Vince, because he has at least some level of credibility. But he's dead. Nobody cares about Chad Gable anymore. I mean, look at the Creed brothers. These guys are genetic freaks. They could do all kinds of crazy and cool stuff. They always lose, and they never wrestle. They don't talk, they don't cut promos. They don't do anything. There is an insane number of people for whom you see them for the first time in 2 or 3 months. And people think that the rotating of talent is great. It's like, it's great for the people at the top. It's great for Punk and Roman that you can rotate them out. It ain't great for the Creed brothers because they don't have a chance to get over. It ain't great for Karrion Kross because he's not on TV consistently enough to get over. When it's not working for Braun Breaker to take him off TV for 3 weeks. He's not going to get over. Like, what are you doing? You had a great moment between Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu. I'm not saying you have to go that route, but you saw that people see something in Braun Breaker. And instead of feeding into that, they decided, we're going to take him off TV for a month. Why? What was your reason? And then it's not like you took him off TV so that you could build a new contender. You didn't even do that. You just took him off TV, and he's just off TV. And it's like, why? What's the point? So, when these guys start, everybody's gassing up Triple H, which I understand. People are kissing him on both cheeks because they want to be in his good graces. It's so different now, even though it's the same people. You know, Drew McIntyre, that he saved his own career. It's like, what are you talking about? It's the same fucking Drew McIntyre he's always been. Just a slightly different presentation. Slightly different. It's a little bit more realistic, a little less superhero-y. But that's about it. But it's the same guy. He's having the same fucking matches he was having before. He just wasn't allowed to bleed in some of those matches, and he wasn't working with guys like CM Punk. You know, if he was allowed to work with, like, John Cena, you know, when he was working with Brock Lesnar, he was one of the most over guys in the company. And then the pandemic happened, and he had to wrestle both Brock and Randy, who was also one of the most over guys in the company, with no fucking crowd. So by the time the crowds came back, people were tired of Drew McIntyre. You know? And that kind of what got derailed, and he's like got caught up in the Lashley train. But when you look at all of these people who supposedly got so much better under Triple H, in reality, it's not that much better. And the people who were hurt by Triple H, they weren't hurt that bad. I mean, it's not like Bianca's a jobber. She's not the focal point of the division anymore, despite the fact that she's sort of the face of the women's division. So it's not always that bad. I mean, the only person that really got bad for was Austin Theory. I mean, it got real bad for him. It got grim for him. But for everybody else, it's been little tweaks here and there, and mostly the same people in place. So, whatever. Merry Christmas. I will talk to you guys later.